contracts this month?
8 fully executed, and I'm expecting to write at least one more by the end of the month that should be executed. So I should end up with around 6 fully executed.
So does that reflect a national trend or is that a local trend?
I think it's
That's a national trend. No, that's a national trend right now. That is a national trend. I was looking for the most current information I could get, and I look at a lot of papers, and I got an article out of 2 days ago paper about the summary of where we were at the end of the year and heading into this year. And I think it's just perfect. So forgive me if I want to read it to you. Home sales rose 12% in December. Y'all aren't aware of that, and that leads into why you're having a big January. Purchases of existing houses, which are tabulated when a contract closes, increased 12% from November to a 5.28 million annual rate. 5.28. In the business planning clinic we had, I went on a limb. I made a prediction on what the sales volume would be for 2010. Everybody remember the limb I went out on? It was a big limb. Everybody was arguing about it. Anyway, I went out 5 million. I thought it would be about 5 million. We'll get the real number in a minute. Where was that? And that's from NAR's research as of Thursday, reported by Bloomberg. That's the most in any 1 month since May and exceeds the highest estimate of all economists surveyed by Bloomberg News. The median price fell 1% from a year earlier. Remember, this is a national number, 1% from a year earlier. And the share of sales represented by foreclosures rose. Okay? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Good thing.
It's a good thing. We've got to work through the problem properties. Until we work through them, we're still going to be in the doldrums. We've got to get them out there and get them sold. Home sales are improving slowly but surely. A senior economist at Moody's Analytics said, we really need to see job creation pick up to ensure housing will continue to recover. I believe that totally. You know, if we see that job number start to tick down, housing will pick up, and you can count on it. Existing home sales were forecast to rise to a 4.87 million rate in December, but instead rose to that 5.28 million. 2010 ended with 4.91 million sold. 4.91. So I don't know if you recall, but mid-year they were predicting as low as 3.8 million. It was really bleak the first part. Remember how bad the last quarter or the first quarter was of last year? You were just talking about it was really bad, and people were talking really ugly about what would happen. But it ended up being pretty good. The number of previously owned homes, the number of previously owned homes on the market dropped 4.2%. Inventory fell to 3.56 million. At the current sales pace, right now, this month, at the current sales pace, it would take 8.1 months to sell the existing inventory in the United States versus 9.5 months at the end of 2010. Okay? Supply in the 8 to 9 month range where it is right now is considered stable for home pricing. That's a stable amount of inventory for home pricing. 6 months inventory or less is considered a what market? A seller's or a buyer's market? So that's a seller's market. More than 6 creeps to a buyer's market, but somewhere between 6 and 8 is a stable market for home pricing. So, is that good stuff? Yeah, it is. And how did this market end up the year? Does anybody know? Compared to 2009 in volume, did you sell more homes in 2010 or less than 29? More. How much up were you? I got the end of your report. How much up were you? 11% in 1 year. Jacksonville. Not including condos in this. Just single-family homes. You went up 11% from 12,000 in 2009 to 13,373. We're up 11%. What about price? Up or down? Down. How much down? 7%. 7% down. Volume up 11%. Think those are tied? Yeah. You better believe those are tied. Ocala was down 14% in price. 14%. Guess what the volume did? Up or down? Up. Up. How much up? 21% up. Way up. Way up. These are directly related. You see it all over the state and all over the nation when prices take significant drops because we've hit most of the bottom. We're nearing the bottom, so now when prices take another big drop, people are jumping in and buying. You know, a lot of fluff is gone. Now it's market by market. It's marginal. Orlando was down 9%, more than we were, and they were up 12% in volume. That's that. Now condos, got the condo report. Condos is pretty interesting. This I wouldn't have guessed off the top of my head, but it's amazing. Where do you think you're up in volume? Are you up or down in volume on condos? You're up. How much up from 09 to 10?
20%, like 15%.
65% higher volume.
Wow.
65. See, none of you would have guessed it off the top of your head either.
Not that much.
Up 65% in volume from 1,412 to 2,329.
65% just in Jack?
Just in Jacks in 1 year. Up 65% in volume. Yes,
Does that include the ones that the banks foreclosed?
this is all condominiums. If they were titled as condos.
No, I mean, did the bank take back 20 condos in one thing? Is that one sale or 20 sales?
No. They're deeded separately. That would be a sale. And each individual deed transfer that's classified as a condo is counted in that number. That's a
Okay.
good question. So, what do you think happened to price?
75% down.
How do you think price went down?
Like a rock.
30% down. 30% down in 1 year, from 111,000 to 78,000. Now, guess what? We led the state in the highest increase in sales of condominiums. The highest percentage increase of sales of condominiums. Guess what? We led the state in the largest decrease in price of condominiums. I mean, you understand how much these are related?
And
And
buyers
this-
are still wanting to offer 30,000 less than that price that's already there, so what's the deal?
Yeah. Well, and what that really points to is you got to really educate your buyers about the market. And it really boils down to this, all we're talking about, this is going on neighborhood by neighborhood. You have some neighborhoods that prices are still falling. You actually have some neighborhoods where prices are going to start going up. Right? It is neighborhood by neighborhood now. It's a battle of value. And when people think there's no better value, they'll start spending their money. And some places have hit it. And we can see that around the state. It's actually happened most likely, again back to the housing report, in Cape Coral. Cape Coral had a price increase of 4% of 2010 to 29. Their average home price went from $90,400 to $93,700. And when you consider the volume, 15,200 sales. That's a significant increase to go up 4% with that kind of volume. This isn't a small market that can be erratic. This is a really big thing. Again, what happened to our prices? Down 7%, right? At an average sale price of $142,000 and 13,000 sales. And I look back in the 20-year history of this market, and guess what year those numbers most mirror? So how far back do I have to go before I find that volume and that price?
04?
No, 80s.
Who said 03? 03. 03. Again, listen to these numbers here. We're at 142,000 with 13,500 sold. In 03, we had 138,000 average sale price with 14,000 even sold. We're almost right at 03, which is how many years back? Well, no, 8. We're 8 years back. 8 years back. And the common wisdom on the street is we're about 8 to 10 years back. We backed up 8 to 10 years, and now we're going to start marching forward again. Maybe by the end of this year, definitely by the end of 12. There should be, I'm speaking nationally, there should be some good normalcy. Who leads the nation in returning to normalcy? The states that are hit the worst or the states that are hit the least in the ship? The ones that are hit the worst. Ones that are hit the worst. Of all the states in the nation that have the best job prospects, and this is out of USA Today's report from the National Economic Management Council or something like that. Report came out about 2 weeks ago. Which state is going to lead the nation in job growth and recovery in 2011?
Texas?
Florida. Florida. Florida is highly predicted. Which state 2 weeks ago was the only state without snow? Including Hawaii. My son stumped me. He said, which state? I said, well, it had to be Florida and Hawaii. He went, no. Hawaii had snow on the mountain. And it did. It had snow. It's Florida. It's Florida. We have endearing characteristics as a state. We are considered to be one of the best states to do business in. From a big business point of view, we're one of the best states to do business in. We are also considered to be a destination state by a tremendous amount of people. So that second home buyer is coming back and is back right now. Some of you are dealing with them, but they're back. They're back. And whether they buy just one and rent it, and one day we're going to retire and live in it, or they buy several and rent them out as a strategy, they are coming back, and they're coming back right now. Okay? And that brings up the topic today, which is investing. We're going to talk about investing, and I'm talking to you today about both your need to invest and the reasons why you should and what you should expect, but also how to discuss investing with all of your clients. If you've been in this business a few years or more, and you've sold more than 40 or 50 houses, you've sold a house to somebody who will invest in real estate. How do I know that's true?
1 out of 50 people invest.
Well, last year in 2010, 10% of all sales were to investors. I'm sorry, 20% of all sales were to investors. The normal rate is 10%. In other words, 1 in 10 people will invest in real estate. Currently, right now, it's 2 in 10, or 1 in 5 will invest in real estate. Now, why is that? Why is it double?
Low interest rates.
It's the golden age of real estate investing. It really is. The people who are serious investors are just looking around going, oh my God. I did that. We made a big acquisition this year because I couldn't help myself. I was like, oh my God.
Jennifer.
I couldn't help myself. Okay, so you had a question?
I just wanted to ask that our prices are back to below 3 levels for single-family homes, but for condos, I think they're back to like 18, 19 prices or something, aren't they?
Well, I actually didn't look back at the condos historically. And the reason is, think about your current right now volume. You ended 2010 with how many sales? Oh, I got the wrong sheet. About 14,000, right?
No, condos.
I know that, but with homes I'm talking about. How many did you end up for the year? 13,500. How many condos did you end up with? 2,300. Okay? Your market, your business, unless you're a condo specialist, your business should be housing driven. Houses, townhomes, not condos. If your business is condo driven, then that would be something you want to look at. But the bottom line is, wherever they've driven the price back to, are they still highly desirable at these prices? Yeah. And remember, a lot of condos have big baggage that houses don't have.
Yeah.
Right? Like lawsuits with the condo association, unpaid fees, water bills, you get all kinds of junk. And does that depress pricing value? Yeah, it does. So that's maybe one of the reasons why condo pricing has fallen further than housing, because there's other baggage involved in determining value. Right? Risk of lawsuits affects value. Right?
And not being ethical compliant hurts too.
Of course. Okay, so bottom line is, and if you listen to the president's speech, by the way, what happened after the president's speech on Wall Street? Which just happened yesterday. What happened to Wall Street? Big jump. What did the board of senior economists of the Dow Jones say about the president's speech? It was the most favorable, business-friendly speech he could have made. So that, with a whole bunch of other indicators, says you guys are going to have at least the same amount of business in 2011 as 2010, and the odds are extremely high you'll have more. Something bad's got to happen for it to drop. There's a certain amount of momentum going on right now. I'm not talking about big momentum, but the pendulum, when it changes, those changes right when it's changing are very small. Right? It's got to build up steam before the change is big. Well, we're at that. It's small momentum, but it's a definite momentum change. We're not going down. We're starting to flatten out, and you got to flatten out before you go up. Right? Well, that's right where you are. You're still at the point as a real estate agent. You're still at the point where you need to go get market share, because as the market gets better and better and better, market share will be harder and harder to get. You'll have people who have not stayed in real estate who will get back in it when it gets better. You have people who aren't in it who will get in it. And you have people that are in it, they're going to step up their game considerably. Right? So now's the time. Okay. Any more comments about the market? No? Okay. That was easy. Y'all feeling good about the market, right? 2011, right?
Uh-huh.
You're on fire about it, right? You should be. You should be. Okay, I wrote some notes for myself, just some simple things about investing. And if you're going to talk to investors, you need to know the basic language of investing. Does anybody know ERV? ERV. You don't remember that from real estate school?
It's a long time
The answer is
ago.
no.
Investment equals return.
Income equals rate times value, right? So if I have an investor said I want a 10% return, and I'm trying to sell him a $100,000 property, what's his income got to be? 10K, right? Now that simple formula is called ERV. ERV can be messed around with any way you want to mess around with it. You can have rate is equal to what? Income over value, right? Value is equal to what? Income over rate. Right? Everybody get that? So you can play with these, and these are the three issues with investing. What do I pay? What's my rate of return? Or what's my cash return? Either way. And some investors look at it from cash, and some look at it from rate. Right? A lot of you get marketing from commercial brokers, and the first thing you'll see is Walgreens, 10% return after tax. Right? I mean, they'll give you that rate of return because that's what a lot of investors look at first. If it won't give me the rate of return, these are fixed assets with long-term leases. If it won't give me my rate of return, I'm not even interested. I'm not looking. If I got to pay $1 million for it and I can't get 10% or better, I don't want to look at it. I'm not talking. Right? Okay. There's something else you need to know, which is called the stack. Anybody remember the stack?
Yeah,
Yeah? You do?
I just don't
Now
remember what it is.
this is any investment property. And if you're going to buy for yourself, you need to know how to analyze property. The first thing you look at is PGI, which is what? Potential gross income. How much? And think about a quadruplex or a small apartment complex, or even a big one, or even a shopping center. But it all boils down to what's the potential gross income I could get? How much could I get? And to that, I want to add other income. Right? So if I got a shopping mall, I can rent the whole thing out, but guess what? I can also put some newsstands and some drink machines, right? I can let the Christmas tree guy set up a lot in November and sell Christmas trees out in the parking lot, right? I can get other income off of that property, right? And a single-family house or townhome, if you rented a single-family house or townhome, is there an opportunity for other income?
Yeah,
What?
like if they want to do washer and dryer.
Perfect.
If they want to do lawn service.
Perfect.
if they
On a
wanna do-
house, if they want lawn service, if they need a washer and dryer and refrigerator, I have an appliance
Cleaning
package on my
service.
units if you want it. Exactly. You can do anything and gross it up and make more profit on it. You can do lots of things to add other income, right? What's another way to get other income? It's a little bit more subtle way, but it's real income. I can rent a place to someone for slightly less than the rent I want if they will paint it and fix it up as tenants, right? So I might give them, if I give them $100 off a month, right, that's $1,200 for the year. If redoing the entire interior would cost me $2,500, $3,000, I just made $2,000. Y'all see that? Y'all get that? That's a big deal. Okay. Plus other income, then I got to deduct what? Vacancies and collections. Vacancies and collections. Unpaid bills. And the times it's vacant and then unpaid rent, bad checks. Okay? What's the normal going rate for that? 5%. Somebody knows their business. 5%. If you own one unit and you have a month or two vacancy, it doesn't feel like that's a small number. That feels like a big number when I'm writing that check every month. The truth is, when you have multiple properties, you'll find it'll average about 5%. If you're doing things right. If you're doing things wrong, it could be worse. But if you're doing things right, we've got over 35 rental properties, and our rate is about 4.5%. So it hovers right around that rate. What does that give you? EGI. Who said that? Who knows?
Salary.
Okay, you know that.
Go ahead of class.
And what is EGI? And what is EGI? Effective gross income. Exactly. And out of effective gross income, in other words, this is what I can expect to get on a monthly basis. Out of that, what do I gotta take out? Operating expenses, absolutely. And I said it that way because it's not all expenses. There's a certain kind of expense you don't take out here. You take out operating expenses. And that gives me what, young lady? NOI, the fabulous NOI. Now getting to that is where a lot of investors want to hear. What's NOI on this property, right? What's NOI? Because I don't care if it makes $10,000 a month, but it costs $12,000 a month to carry it, to operate it. I don't care about it.
No, on the NOI, you've got to take out your long-term expenses also that are not operating expenses.
Like what?
Capital.
Capital expenses, reserved for roof, reserved for air conditioning.
Well, no. That should be, you should have a sinking fund built into operating expense, but this is a debatable issue. This is a debatable issue.
I consider it a different expense.
You're absolutely right. No, you're right in what you say. This is actually,
Explanation.
well, this is actually a taxation issue to some degree that you would have with the CPA about the best strategy to book these long-term expenses. Are you going to have a sinking fund? I have a sinking fund.
Okay.
Everybody fine? I'll put $50 a month into a sinking fund. All I've done is look at how long are my typical roofs going to last and how long are my major appliances going to last. I need X amount of money a year to know I'm going to hit those replacements. Now there's a point where, and this is exactly what you're talking about, there's a point where I no longer wish to build, because it all goes into one pot. I got a big sinking fund. It's not like one per unit. I got one big sinking fund. And then there's a point where essentially I say, you know what? That's enough. I've gotten more units, but that's enough. Because now I'm going to essentially self-insure myself that all the roofs and all the appliances aren't all going to go down in 2 or 3 years, but they will be staggered over time. Y'all get that? Okay. All right, so that's NOI. What do I take out of NOI? Debt service. So if I have a loan, now I'm going to take advantage of, or take account of the debt service. And why is it important that I don't include debt service in operating expense? Could you buy an investment property cash? Okay? So if you're going to compare investment to investment, you have to do it without debt service. You have to do it as if it was a cash purchase. Now, most people are going to use leverage, and I recommend they do it, but you're going to take out the debt service. And what does that give you?
Cash flow before tax.
Cash flow before tax, and then you deduct your taxation from the government, and that gives you after-tax cash flow. Most investors will be happy if you can give them this. All right? If you get down to that, that's what they care about. I'll worry about whether I'm going to pay cash or not. You will not be able to truly tell me about my after-tax cash flow in the big picture, because our losses in real estate deductible against other income. Yes, they are. So I can have on the books some properties that make me money and some properties that make me losses and end up making a profit, even though I had some losses on some property. Right? I can mitigate that. I can't wipe it all off, but I can mitigate that. Okay, all right, having said all that, we're here to talk about investing. And there are two basic kinds of investment. Only two. What are they? Short-term and long-term.
Be good at that.
Touche. Touche. I won't argue with that, good or bad, but the reality is, for purposes of today, Jeanette, we'll talk about long-term and short-term. What's the difference, basically, between short-term and long-term? Huh?
Pays tax.
Well, which one of these creates wealth?
Long-term.
Long-term. This is about wealth creation.
Buy and hold and buy and put.
Right. This is about wealth creation. This is about cash creation. And there's a big difference. There's a big difference. If you want to get wealthy and you're able to make cash, what do you got to do with that cash? You're going to get wealthy. You got to invest it. Right? So all wealth creation comes from investing. All wealth creation comes from investing. So even if you're flipping houses and making money, now you're sitting with the money, what are you going to do with the money? And the odds are you're never going to do one flip that will make you all the money you need to retire on. Right? So that's cash creation, and it always boils down to an investment question. How long is the definition for short-term versus long-term? 1 year or less. And that's partly for taxation issues, but it's also for people that do it at a high level, use a line of credit. When you do a lot of flipping, if you're smart, you'll do lines of credit. And what's the deal about a line of credit at the bank? By the way, these are much harder to get now than they've ever been. But what's the deal with a line of credit? It only runs for 11 months and 28 days. So in other words, you can get $30,000 to buy this property. I need the $10,000 down for the loan and $20,000 to fix it up, and I can just get a line of credit. What's it cost for you to get a withdrawal on a line of credit?
1%.
Like about 1%. That's a typical number. So for the 30 that I need, I go to the bank, they'll give me the 30, and I only put down 1,000 bucks. Is that a good deal? That's a really good deal. It's a really good deal. Really good deal. Most people, and I'm one of them, most people have had their solid lines of credit, paid everything back, got an established line of credit. They've had it reduced and reduced and reduced arbitrarily by the banks. They just send you a letter, ladies and gentlemen, saying your X amount of line of credit has been reduced. Got your letter? Can I ask one question? Why? And here's the answer you'll get. Because you used it too much or you haven't used it at all. So no matter what I do, you're going to reduce it. That's right. But that's the banking climate we've been in. I've had my line of credit reduced every year, 5 years straight in a row, without me doing anything wrong. Everybody understand?
Yeah.
5 years in a row?
So starting in 05.
Starting in 6. Starting in 6. It's been reduced every year. Every year. It's gotten less the amount they reduce it. I'm telling you, banks are running scared. And lines of credit, frankly, are big risk for them. Understand, a line of credit is not directly backed by any specific asset. It's based on my qualification as a candidate for them to lend money to. I'm not signing any direct attached notes to that. I'm signing a guarantee that I'll pay it.
Well, it depends on whether you have a home equity line of credit.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying in general, line of credit, you go to the bank, they just look at your sheet. They look at your financials and go, okay, we'll give you $50,000 line of credit. Well, there's no direct attachment to that, so it's highly risky. Y'all understand that? That's why they cut all this back. This is very risky stuff. Particularly if you say, yeah, I'm going to use it for real estate investing. No, you're not. Okay, 1 year or less, and this, in order to create wealth, typically would be 20 plus years. If you're going to create wealth, right, 20 plus years. If you're going to create wealth. Now I'm going to show you the example we're going to go over today is a 10-year goal. And wealth is created in just 10 years, 10 or 15 years. But real wealth, how long does it take you to pay off most of these notes? 20 years, right? 20-year notes. Typical investment loan, 20 years. Well, guess what? At the end of 20 years, you pay all your investment price off, you will have massive cash flow and you'll be wealthy. And you'll be getting big cash flow and no loss in equity. Is that the golden fleece? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay. All right. Having said all that, let's dig in. You should have a handout. Everything we're going to go over is right in this book. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. If you don't have it, you need to get it. This is New York Times, the best-selling ever printed for real estate investing. Best book I've ever seen. Okay, the goal is to grow your wealth to finance your life mission. Here's some myths. What's myth number 1? I don't need to be an investor. Everyone you've sold a home to, every client you have, knows that's baloney. Okay? There is less coming their way when they retire than they've ever had in their lifetime to expect. Expectations are very low. Social Security may disappear at some point in the future. May. It's pretty well funded for people that are going to retire for the next 10 or 15 years. Believe it or not, despite everything you read. You really read, it's funded. But beyond that, it's questionable. Depends on the debt and other issues. But everybody needs to be invested. Myth 2. I don't need or want to be financially wealthy. I'm happy with what I have. Please.
Talk to me when you're like older and you're not taken care of.
Yeah, and the point here is really that people need to wake up. Everybody needs more money than they think, and especially when you look forward to retirement, you need more money than you think. But most people need more money than they think right now. And why is that?
unexpected things.
Unexpected things. Do you know what is the number one cause of bankruptcies in America?
Medical.
Medical bills, unpaid medical bills. Number one cause, 42% of all bankruptcies are from unpaid medical bills. I just went through, a lot of you all noticed, I just went through almost a year with my father, in and out of hospitals, ending up at Mayo Clinic. I mean, you can't believe the kind of money. I mean, I guess a lot of you do know indirectly through family experience, but it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. So, you need more money than you think. And what's myth 3? It doesn't matter, I just can't do it. That's baloney. I know a lot of small investors who are going to end up being protected. I'm not saying they're going to be really wealthy, but when they retire, they're going to have a decent monthly income to live on. $3,000, $4,000 a month. Plus their Social Security or whatever else they've got. That is a solid amount of money to live on. They're protected. I'm not saying they're wealthy, but these are people who only own 2 or 3 properties. And they're going to be fine. Those properties won't lose value, and they'll have that cash coming in, and it's a good plan. I know other people who have a plan, this is an old plan, buy 1 home per child to pay for their college. When they're born, buy a home. Buy a home. 17, 18 years later, when they're ready to go to college, the odds are you can sell that house and have all the money you need to pay for their 4 years of college. Right? It's a simple, old strategy. All the house has got to do is pay for itself. It'll cover itself. You're home free. Well, suppose you did that over and over again. Okay. There are 5 investing myths that you need to think about. What's number 1?
Investing is complicated.
Investing is complicated. No, it's not. It's not complicated at all. There's a bunch of issues, but it's really not that complicated. What's the fundamental deal?
Buy low, sell high.
But in terms of real estate investing, there are only 2 kinds of basic investments, and those are ones that cover themselves and ones that don't. And if you get ones that cover themselves, in other words, the income that they generate, this is not a strategy for land, right? When I'm talking about land, we're talking about property that will cash flow, that will generate income. If you buy income-producing property that will cover themselves, you can do very well long-term. What is the history of most property over decades? Forget the last 5 years, and I mean that. Over time, what will property do?
Go up in value.
It will appreciate. What will rents do?
Go.
They will grow. So when you buy it, it'll break even or better. The odds are extremely high over a 20-year span. It will only do better. That is the extreme odds. Okay, myth 2, the best investments require knowledge most people don't have. Well, I will say this. Like anything in life, the more attention you pay to something, the better you get at it, right?
Right.
As a real estate agent, every one of you should be better at investing than the average consumer who has a full-time job Monday through Friday. You get that?
Yep.
It is your job to know what's going on in the real estate market. You are paid to help people make selections among real estate. If you don't know better than the average Joe, you're not a very good realtor. I don't mean that negatively, I'm just saying there's no way, if you sell houses, there's no way you don't know more than the average Joe. There's no way you don't. And if you start to pay attention to investment real estate, you'll be much better at that than the average Joe. Right? Okay. All right, 3, investing is risky, I'll lose money. By definition, what is the definition of investment?
Risk.
Well, for an assumption of some risk, there's a rate of return, right? Most people talk like investing is gambling. That's not investing. Investing has a formula we went through. You can do an analysis on it. You can't do that when you gamble, right? I may or may not win, but I can look at a piece of property. I can do a rent analysis in the neighborhood. I can look at the market, see what appreciation looks like. I can see what it costs me to put a roof on. I can do a detailed analysis on that property and come up with a pretty solid idea what my returns are going to be. And those are pretty bulletproof. And I'm telling you, I'm telling you, it's not that complicated. And I do not feel like I'm gambling. I really don't. And I have not lost one property in the shift. Not one. And I have raised my rents during the shift. As a group, there's some that I've lowered the rent and there's some that I've raised the rent. But as a group, we have higher rent income now than before the shift. Why is that?
More people need to rent.
They ain't buying, they're renting. There's some price brackets of rental properties where rents have actually gotten much stronger because people, where are those, you think? Where rents have gotten much stronger in the marketplace?
250.
The best school zones. The best school zones. Rents have tightened up dramatically because people, if I can't buy a home in the best school zone, then I will rent a home in the best school zone because I want my kids in the best school zone. You hear that? My higher priced properties, by definition, are in better neighborhoods, which almost always means better school zones. And I'm getting serious money for those. My most expensive rental units, I'm getting serious money for those. Serious money. Okay, most successful investors are able to time the market. Well, that's really, and this is not written clearly, but that's really not true. They're good investments all the time. All the time. They're good investments all the time. If you look and you understand what you're doing, you will always be able to find good investments. Why is that? Because there are always people that get distressed. Always. I mean, we're in an ocean of distressed property right now, but there's always distressed property to buy. There's always, as far as I know, there's always divorces. Right? There's always deaths. There's always estates. I mean, we get this in Tallahassee. A lot of people that grow up there move away, and then when the parents die in the house, and the kids are in Chicago and San Francisco, the call we get is, just sell it. Just sell it. Send us the money. Well, it's really tough, Mark. Just sell it. Right? And that happens all the time. Okay, and the last one, all the good investments are taken. Well, is that true today?
No.
Oh my God. There's a sea of them right now, and there's more coming. Right? Okay, true investors win the wealth building game. And if you can't see it, in the handout, it gives you the page number in the book where all of these, so if you see something here and you want to refer back to it, you can go right to that page in the book and get to it. What this says is this. People who, you know, it's been fashionable to say, well, maybe you should not buy a home. You should just rent. It's smart to rent, not buy real estate. This crash has proven people should, that's horse poop. Don't ever let people tell you that. The average analysis of people who rent, this is their wealth. It's typically a flat line. When the average American retires, what is the single biggest asset they have? Their home. It is not their retirement fund. It's not their 401ks. Traditionally, it is their home. It's paid off, they sell it, and that's the biggest nest egg that they have. You get that? People who don't buy homes typically don't save either, therefore their wealth is flatline. You get that? A modest investor has a straight curve appreciation in wealth. Who is that? As a homeowner. That's exactly, isn't that what straight line looks like? Isn't that what your mortgage is, a straight line? That's exactly what it looks like. Your wealth grows day by day. Every time you make a payment, your wealth is ticked up because you built what? Equity. It ticks up very steadily. Now investors, true investors, remember we talked about that pendulum curve? Same thing. A small investor buys one property, 2 or 3, but by the time you get to around 10 or 12, right when you no longer get a conforming investor loan. What's the number right now? Cece, what is it? Is it 6 or 7? Is it 10? Conforming?
10 investment properties,
You can still get a conforming loan up to 10?
conventional.
Conventional? Okay, all right. I haven't qualified for that in a long time, so I don't know. So, but there's a point where it starts to bell curve up. And why does it start to bell curve up?
Because they start to pay for each other.
Well, the early ones, have you raised the rents? Yeah. Have they grown some equity? Yeah. Can you use those cash assets to use for other purposes in acquiring new property? Yeah. There's another point where you can start saying, you know what, I've got enough cash flow coming in now off of 15 properties. I'm going to go back to my very first property because I'm now, well, it doesn't say it, but I'm now maybe 8 or 10 years in. I'm going to take all my positive cash flows and pay off the first mortgage, the very first property, the one that's the closest to get paid off. You follow me? And then when that one's paid off, I have all of that monthly plus all that other cash, and now I'm going to pay off the next one. So it can bell curve up radically. That's just one strategy. Y'all see that?
You said that's like an 8-year, is when that starts to...
Well, it's also about how much positive cash flow you get. If you buy right and rent right, you could do that right away, couldn't you? If you bought 10 properties in a year, you could have enough cash flow to start paying off mortgages.
Can
It depends on if you want that cash flow, if you need the cash flow now, I don't need it now, but maybe later I'll need it.
Well, typically, wealth is built up over time, and you should not want to do this. If you want wealth, you shouldn't want to do this for cash. You should take any cash you make and put it back into either acquiring, right, or paying down. And it depends on where you are in your investment strategy. There's a point where you stop acquiring because you've got the asset base you want, and then the goal is to pay them off. But as long as you don't have enough, then your goal should strictly be acquire, acquire, acquire. Right? We just made a big acquisition because I'm not through acquiring. I want more. I want more. I know a number that I want in total assets paid off at a certain point in my life, and it's a pretty darn big number. And I'm not ashamed of it. It's a just darn big number. The goal in life, as far as investing, is to reach a point where your unearned income exceeds your earned income. And then I do not need to work another day in my life. Y'all get that? As long as you live on more money than comes in from any source other than your work, you can't work. I mean, you can't quit work without taking a hit in your lifestyle. Right?
Right.
I'm not saying you can't quit. You can quit.
But then
But
your
if
lifestyle.
you need $70,000 a year to enjoy your current lifestyle, and your income from unearned properties is only $10,000, and you quit work, you're going to starve. Right? But the goal is to get that to pass. So I want to pass my lifestyle standard now from unearned income, and then I'm ready. I'm ready. That doesn't mean I'll quit, but I'm ready. I could get ill, I could die, my family's all taken care of at that point. Right? Does that make sense? I mean, that's the goal. Okay. All right. And then in terms of cash flow, true investors really win big too. That's for the same kind of reasons. Income earners see their peak earning years, their cash goes up, right? When they're their most productive point in their careers and their businesses. But then it falls because they do what? Every time there's nothing else coming in, right? The homeowner sells their home, has those other fixed assets, and then they flatline, right? But what does the true investor do? Over time, they've acquired property, right? It doesn't happen all at once. And then over time, those properties get paid off, and rents go up, and they just keep going up, 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 up. As you pay off, as appreciation goes up, as rents go up, it just keeps going up. It never goes down. It keeps going up. Whoa, baby. What happened there? Okay. That was fun. Okay, what's the next slide say? Big goals?
Yes. Number 8.
Okay. Give me that show. Give me that show. Oh, there we go. Big goals. I was just talking about that. You need to have a big number, and you need to know what that number is. And it's for a lot of people, something they really don't ever do. But there's a number you need to have, and it goes right back to the ERV calculation. When you know how much money you need to have a month, what's that in the ERV? What is that? That's the income. That's the I. When I know that, and can I predict what kind of return I'm going to get on most properties? Yes, what is it? There's a benchmark formula for on any rental property what I can typically expect to get as a percentage. Here's a rough rule of thumb. A property should rent from between 0.8 and 1% of value. So a $100,000 property should get $800 to $1,000 a month. And that's the holy grail, if you can get that. There are many properties right now that will absolutely rent for 0.8. There are a fair number of properties that will rent for 1. There are some properties that will rent for 1.1, 1.2 times value. Sure. Yeah. Okay, y'all follow me. This is a simple formula. It is just start off with the 1%. It's called the 1% rule. Traditionally, it's called the 1% rule. And the 1% rule said I expect to get 1% of value per month in rent. So a $100,000 property, I'll get $1,000 a month rent. Okay. Now, as home prices escalated beyond the rise in rent rates, I'm telling you, in 03, 04, and 05, I didn't buy hardly any investment income property because that value formula wasn't there. And if you think about what does that value formula typically mean in the real world, it means that the rent won't cover the nut. Right? That's what it means. Just think if everybody followed that rule in 03, 04, and 05, nobody would overpay for anything. right? Nobody. But I started looking at property, and everybody was buying property right and left, and all they were looking at was the appreciation, right? That's all they were looking at. When the reality is, if things go bad, what's your safety net? Will it break even on rent? And that's what that rule is. Now, the reality is 0.8 is what you can expect to get on most properties in that range. So I'm asking you, a $100,000 house, what will it rent for in your market? Well, obviously it depends on the area, but you wouldn't invest in an area where a house costs more than it would break even on, right?
Right.
So what I'm asking you is not what's worst case, I'm asking you, can you find neighborhoods where you can buy a home and it'll rent for 0.8 to 1% of value?
Easy.
Easy? So you can find a $100,000 house to buy where you can get $1,000 a month. Okay? Well, that's the formula. That's it. That's the simple standard formula. Okay? That's what you're looking at. Yeah?
How do you factor in repairs you have to make? A lot of...
Oh, hang on one second. Let me finish the thought.
Okay.
We're talking about ERB. So now I know, what is that as a percentage? If I got, let's make it easy, man. If I got 8.8 of value per month, what does that mean I'm getting annually on income? It's about 10%, isn't it? What's 0.8 times 12? 9.6? That's what I got for the year. That's about 10%. So in ERB, if the I is what I'm searching for, or if the I is what I know, in other words, if I want $1,000 a month coming in, what does the property need to be? If I can get 10%. 100,000, that's the ceiling I will pay for it. Everybody follow me? So now if I want 10,000 a month, how much assets do I have to have? $1 million. Right? And by the way, it can be 2 houses that are 500 as long as they rent for 0.8 or better. Or it can be 10 houses for 100. Which is the better strategy?
10.
10. The more is the better. The more is the better. That's called diversification of risk. I got property scattered around my market because I know if things should get a little soft over here, they're not likely to get soft everywhere. Right? I mean, I know that. But I'm still pretty much in one quadrant of my area because of what? School zones. I'll buy anywhere in these school zone areas, and I like to have some townhouses, some small single families, maybe some better homes, and a few nice fat dogs, because that means I got something for everybody, right? I got something for every part of the market. But they're all in areas where I know people with families are going to be focusing. And even when times are tough, they will spend more money to have their kids in better school zones than to be in worse school zones. Does that make sense?
Out of your homes, do you notice where's your higher vacancy rates going to lie for you? Out of like
College rentals.
So the townhomes.
Well, because the kids are gone 3 months out of the year, right? So you will have more vacancy with college rentals. Well, what's the good news? They have higher rent rates. They'll rent for 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 times value per month.
Because they're in demand.
Well, because they're compared to the dorm fees.
Amen.
And a kid will spend $400 a month per bed, and this is the way we look at it. That means for a 3-bedroom house, I get $1,200. Well, I can buy those for $90,000. Right? 1% of that is $900, and I'm getting $1,200.
My son's paying $580 for a 1-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartment.
Well, there you go. I'm just saying. So I have a lot more money, but your question was about vacancies. I have more vacancies in those units. You know, the regular mom and pop neighborhoods with kids, I rarely have any vacancy. You know, it's like just tenant, tenant, tenant. By the way, that's where you also get a lot of long-term renters. High-quality neighborhoods, great school zones, people come in, they'll rent for 2 or 3 years. And you don't have to prod them. They'll go, would you do more than a year? Yeah.
I just checked it. Conventional is 4, but they can refi 10.
Aha. See, I thought it had gone down. Conventional is 4.
4 homes?
4 homes.
in one name, but you can refinance 10.
So that's your first goal, because those are conventional loans. So that's your first goal, is to get 4. Whatever the conventional cap is there. I remember when it was 7. I remember when it was 10 when I started. It was 10. Okay. All right, so big models. You need big models. We are discussing this issue. We are talking about the big models here. Are y'all hearing that? About having a diversification of property across good school zones. This is the big model of being safe in your investing. We'll talk more about the kind of houses in a couple of slides. And then big habits. The big habits about being an investor are frankly very simple. When you guys are out looking at real estate with buyers and sellers who want to sell, you have on your realtor hat to serve the public. But you should also have on that little part of you that says investor. You should always have your investor hat on. Some of the houses we bought, I was called out on a listing appointment. And I walked around to the house, and I said, you know, we haven't done any deal yet. I haven't signed a listing with you, but I'm going to tell you right now. I'm looking at your house, and I like it. You tell me you want to get out fast. I got a simple question. What will you take for a bottom line now? Today. I've cut some pretty good deals, because I haven't signed anything. We have no license. We have no issue with there's nothing there. I said, I'll buy it now. What will you take? And of course, there's always this little negotiation. But a couple products I got were just like that. Just, you know, took them down. But keep that hat on. Even when you're looking at other properties with a buyer. Buyer says, no, I don't like it. But you should be thinking, you know what?
I do.
I'm going back. This one smells good. And usually it's the ones where buyers go, ew, it's yucky. I don't like it. It needs so much work. And usually going, yeah, it does, doesn't it? That's that other hat. You get that. Don't get in the mindset that it's a yucky house. That might mean, from your investor hat, it's a great house. You know, I think realtors tend to think it's a yucky house and don't come back. Okay, real estate.
Gene?
Yeah.
What kind of problems could you get into then if you took a listing, short sale listing, and the price gone down, no offers, and we get to the point where, hey, maybe we could buy this?
You can't get anything as long as you disclose. Just put lots of disclosure language, let everybody know I'm a realtor, I'm a listing agent. I know lots more than anybody involved in the transaction, including the bank and the appraiser. I know more than anybody, and I'm telling you right up front, but I will buy it.
As long as you're not offering less and saying they can't get more.
Right.
Then, if you do that, then that's, you know, dishonest, right?
There is never lie, because you will get caught. You know, don't lie. And there's too much focus right now on duplicitous dealing. You know, it's not worth your livelihood, right? We're talking about one investment is not worth your career and your license. But having said that, there's tons of stuff that's not selling that can be bought for a price. And there's nothing wrong with you throwing down an offer. But again, disclose. Nobody has to take your offer. Nobody has to take my offer. You don't like my offer, don't take my offer. You feel uncomfortable with me being your listing agent and me trying to buy it? Fine, I won't try to buy it. End of story. We're done. I'll keep working for you. And I mean that. Mr. Johnson, I got to tell you the truth. There's a lot of good properties to buy. So it doesn't offend me a bit. And let's keep your house on the market and I'll keep trying to sell it. And I mean that. I mean that. There's too many good ones. But when I'm right in the middle of one, I'm listing it and I'm looking at it, I mean, why on earth would I want to tell them? Right? Turn it around. Think of the sellers you have. If they could only get an offer from anybody, they would jump at it. This is not the biggest problem in the world that you might think it is. It is something, it's a good point. You've got to be careful about handling this right. But I would even say you get your attorney to draft whatever, and I'll read it and I'll sign it if I'm comfortable with it. Otherwise, I won't buy your house. I mean, I'll disclose anything you want to disclose. Right? I don't care. Okay, it's a most stable investment. These are the benefits, the reasons, the rationale behind investing in real estate. Number one, anybody can buy it. B, C, and D are highlighted because these are the big issues. Number one, it's appreciable. Let's talk about the most common alternate investment besides real estate, the stock market. When you buy stock, what's your goal for that stock to do? To go up. What is the history, the long-term history of the stock market? Is that a pretty good bet?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Which is more volatile, the stock market or real estate? Stock market. Stock market. What has happened in the last 5 years? When was the last time that happened? That big a dip in real estate. When was the last time that happened? In the 30s. That big a dip was the 30s.
Didn't we drop down to 8,000?
He's talking about housing now. He's talking about housing.
Yeah, I'm talking about housing. I'm just saying that if you look at the stock market, it's much more volatile, whereas housing typically is like this. We had the Depression, and then literally 70 years later, it happened again. This big a fall. There is no immediate analogy. We've had pops like that in select pockets of the country. Just like Keller Williams got invented during the worst real estate disaster in that part of Texas ever. You know, his local board went from 6,000 agents when he started up Keller Williams, literally went from 6,000 agents to 1,500 agents in 1 year. That's how bad the real estate was. Couldn't give away real estate. Couldn't give it away. By the way, Gary bought a lot of real estate during that time. Okay, so appreciable, leverageable. This is the simplest thing that got me investing in real estate, my wife and I. It's so simple. You go to Merrill Lynch. You say, I've got some money, I want to make an investment. How much money you got? I got $100,000. They go, cool, give it to us. We'll make you rich. And they'll all promise you that, right? We'll make you rich. Say, cool, what do I get? You get $100,000 in stock. Right? Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? No, it's a good thing. But if I go down to the bank, or if I go to a certified financial planner who's open-minded, or if I go to a real estate investment agent and I say, I got $100,000, what can you give me? What can you give me? What can you give me with $100,000?
$1 million.
How much?
10% down?
800.
Well, if they cap it at 4, you can get 4, and then you can go from there.
You, isn't it 20% down?
20%, yes, 20%.
So I can give them 5 times the value. 5 times the value. You understand that? If they got $100,000, I can give them $500,000 of real estate. Now there's a note to pay, but if it cash flows, what happens to the note? Bye-bye. Bye. Try to go down to Merrill Lynch. I'd like to buy $100,000 in stock, but I only have 20% down.
You can option it.
Well, margin.
Yeah, well, but you're playing a different game now, right? Rentable, cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Can you take your stock and say, I want to give it to somebody and they can touch it and pay me for that? No.
Options you can sell.
What's it called?
You're playing a different game. That's much higher risk, right?
No, on stock you own, you sell calls and.
Oh, well, yeah, it's still riskier. Not like rent. Not like rent. I can't lose my asset because I'm renting, right? Improvable sweat equity. Right now, this is a big deal for a lot of your first-time investors. It's a great way for them to get a jump on wealth, right? Because a whole lot of this junk y'all are looking at has been vacant for a long time. It's just a lot of sweat in there. There's nothing basically wrong with these houses, right? Good roofs, fine foundations. A lot of them have hardy board on the outside. They're moldy, but they just need a pressure wash, and they look like a new house. Is this true? There's a lot of good stuff out there. But sweat equity is a big deal. Deductible, depreciable, and deferrable. Huge deal. Can I make a big gain on selling real estate and not pay any tax on it? What's that called?
1031.
1031. Try to do that with stock. Try that with stock. Stable, slow to rise, slow to fall. Typically. What are the odds there'll be another big fall in real estate going forward? The odds are it'll happen again in 70 years.
70?
70. I mean, isn't that the track record we have? The last time it happened this big was 70 years ago. So that's the odds you've got. You have no other track record to look at but 70 years. By the way, what fundamentally drives up real estate?
Stop going down.
Population.
Yeah, I'm going to use a different word. You're absolutely right. But I mean, I'm talking about all real estate. Commercial, residential, all real estate. Growth. Growth is fundamentally what drives up real estate values. All of them. When population grows, you need more stores, you need more stores, you need more commercial, you need more houses for the people that came into population, right? What is the best prediction on the growth of the United States? We'll have another 100 million people. I mean, we're into it now. We'll have another 100 million. We'll be 400 million people by about 2032 to 2038. That fundamentally is not going away. It is not going away. Immigration and births and longevity, people living longer, is going to continue to grow our population. And that is simply not, somebody's foolish to think that's not going to happen. That population growth is going to continue to happen, and that will fundamentally guarantee this nice, slow, steady rise in real estate. It will recover. And then livable. The first investment should always be your home. If I was a young person knowing what I know right now, I would be on a 2-year plan. I'll go buy a home, FHA, 3.5% down. I'd move in that sucker, and within 2 years I'd have that rented. I'd buy me another one, and I'd do that for a decade. And that alone could build my wealth. Y'all get that? And is that highly leveraged? Yes, it is. What's the key issue? Will it carry itself? Will it carry itself? Y'all understand the point? I could care less how much leverage you've got. You don't, it's not necessarily good to put more money into it so that it'll cash flow. It's better to buy a property that will cash flow with less in it. Right? That will grow your wealth more than putting lots of money in it. Okay. Any question about any of these? The big three: appreciable, leverageable, rentable. Those are the big three. Okay? So, the power of leverage, this is a simple look. Most people look at, Eric mentioned, where'd Eric go? Eric mentioned real estate going up 5 or 6%. This is a look at assuming it goes up 4%. But a property, if you bought a property for $150,000 and you put $30,000 down because you're getting a loan, that's leverage. You got $156,000. If it appreciates at 4%, it went from 150 to 156, so that's $6,000, right? Okay. People look at that and go, 4%, that's not, most serious investors would go, that's not really a good return. No, it's not. But you really have to look at cash on cash, right? Cash on cash says, I got 4% appreciation, but in the amount of money I put up, my return was 6,000 against 30, that's a 20% return. That's a 20% return. What happened to the difference? What happened to the 120,000? Well, the income from the property pays that off, right? Right? That goes away. That is accounted for, in other words. That is accounted for. And again, if you have a positive cash flow property, what's your rate of return if you're getting cash back? Higher. And it could be substantially higher, couldn't it? Suppose you were getting $300 a month, $3,600. Now instead of getting $6,000, I got $9,600. What happened to my rate of return? Now we're almost up to 30% return. Everybody hear that? That's a huge return on investment. Huge. Huge, huge, huge. Okay. This should get you excited. I just want to go out and buy something. Every time I think about it, it's like, my God, I need more stuff. The straight and narrow path of investing. This is important because you will talk to a lot of people who say, yep, I'm an investor, I'm an investor. And only 1 in 4 of those people are really investors. The others are one of these. There are people you'll meet that are O's, they're observers. They'll talk, and never buy. Never. You pull up, first thing you do when you meet anybody that says they're an investor is what? Pull up the tax record and write on their name. See if they own anything. I mean even their own home. I'm serious.
Right.
See if they own anything. Okay? And if they don't own anything but their home, the odds are they're not an investor. Okay? But if you see they own 2, 3, or 4 properties, okay. At least I know they're a small investor. Right? Speculators. High risk, high return. These are the people that created the shifted real estate market. These are those people. These are those people. Okay? Collectors, by the way, these people over time are a pain in the deal with. Because what do they want? A real deal! Right? A real deal! You'll waste your time, waste your time, waste your time.
Oh, yeah.
Collectors. Collectors, they're people who like to buy certain kinds of property, and only certain kinds of property. And a lot of times it's got nothing to do with the actual calculated rate of return. It's the kind of property they like, and they buy that. And then you have the true investor. They like to minimize risk, and they like to maximize return, but they use a formula. They'll look at the stack, they'll look at ERV, and when the numbers are right, they buy. They're not buying a particular kind of property. They're not trying to kill the market. They know that if they can get a 10%, 12% return or better, it's a good deal, I'll take one. They're not looking for, what's the most you can get me? That's not a real investor. A real investor doesn't think like that. What typically comes with the most return? The most risk. There's always risk to reward. A real investor gets that. The best deal in town is likely to be the riskiest deal in town. Y'all get that? Solid deals are really desirable compared to outrageous deals. Although I did buy an outrageous deal. All right, net worth model. Learn the path to money. I love this chart. Any of you that have children should teach your children this chart. You should really seriously teach your kids this chart. This is about money. At the top it talks about capital. There's only two kinds of capital. Sweat and assets. That's it. In other words, you can create wealth by working. Right? You can create wealth by working. Or you can take assets, gold, stocks, cash, whatever, and turn that into cash flow. Either one of those can turn into cash flow. Now when you have cash, there's only 4 things you can do with it. 4 things. Number 1, of course, is spend it. Which is why most people have no money. Because they all jump to number 1. Is this true? This is true. You can donate it. A great thing to do. A great thing to do. But if you truly want to be a tither, if you want to give 10% or more of your annual income, you need to make at least 15% more than you want to tithe. Than your gross. Why? Because you got to pay taxes on the money you tithe. Right? So you got to make a lot of money to do that steadily. You can hold it. Dumbest thing in the world to do. Dumbest thing in the world to do is holding money. You have a bunch of money in a savings account. Dumb. Now I said a bunch of money. If you have a reserve fund, that's a different thing. But I'm saying if you've got a pile of money sitting in the bank account, that's stupid. And then invest it. Invest it. Now, is there anything else you can do with money? That's it. You can give it away, you can spend it, you can sit on it, or you can invest it. And that's it. Okay, nobody knows anything else. I don't either. Now, if you say I'm going to invest it, you only have 2 options. You can invest it by owning something or by lending it. Is there anything else you can do in terms of investing it? Nope. That's not it. Now, when you come down to those choices, there are 2 more choices, and that is a passive investment or an active investment. And that's essentially about control, right? So, I can lend money. Every time you put money into a CD or the money market funds, you are lending money, right? A CD, you're lending money to who? The bank or the government, right? A savings bond, you're lending money, okay? But when you lend money, do you have any control? None. 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 Okay? Or I can own things, that would be stocks, REITs, etc. Now when you own stocks, do you have any control? None. None. Even the people who go to the shareholder annual meeting and holler and scream from the back of the room and wave signs have no control. They think they have control, they have no control. Right? And we're talking mainly about big companies. Now on the active side, you can lend money. And you lend money? I lend money. I lend money to people. Don't call me after the meeting. But I have lent money to people. And it's people that I've known a long time, people that I trust, and I have lent money to people. I will tell you the returns are very nice lending money to people. Because when you're at the last resort, you're my friend, baby. It's money. Owner financing. Huge deal. If you ever own property, free and clear, that you can finance it on a sale, OMG. It's a really big deal. Because about half the time, you'll get it back. You'll get it back. That's a really big deal. That's a big deal.
Can you go into that a little bit more at some point? It seems to me like foreclosing, having to foreclose on a property is a big nightmare. And you don't have control of that property anymore if you did sell financing. They got a 30-year loan or a 20-year loan. All you got is that income. You can't sell it, you can't borrow it.
I don't want to spend forever on it, but if you do owner financing, typically what you do is like a 5-1 balloon, where I'm going to finance it to you for 5 years. After 5 years, you got to come up with all the money and pay me off, or it's mine.
And how about foreclosing?
I've only had to do it a couple of times. It's not a big deal. Usually people get into trouble.
You just said you expect to get it back half the time.
I do. It's not a big deal. People walk away. Most people don't fight it. They walk away. They can't get the loan. They know they can't get the loan. They walk away. It's not a big deal.
They were paying rent.
They don't destroy it while they're on their way out.
Well, you know what? This fear, no, let's talk about this for 1 second. This fear about if I rent to people, because that's all you're talking about, whether you lend it or rent it or whatever. Your fear is that people are going to go in and trash your property.
Well, renting is easier to get somebody out.
But renting has more, my experience is there are more people who trash your place that are renters than people that are trying to buy it.
If you're foreclosing
I don't, you see that out there now, but that's people being mad about banks. You're asking about me doing private lending. Private lending is different. I know these people, they live where they live. If they still are employed where they are, understand the deal. If they're still employed where they are, their plan is to clean up their credit sheet and get a loan and take out the house after 5 years. They haven't cleaned up their credit, they still live where they live, they work where they work, their kids go to school. They do not want to be embarrassed in the marketplace. Most people, if they choose, do not want to be foreclosed. Would you agree with that?
You said half the time you're gonna get it back.
We're gonna get moved out.
But no, what I'm saying is nobody fusses or fights. It's not a big deal. Most of these people convert. I shouldn't say that. From my experience, half of the times that I'm going to get them not pay me my balloon, they stay as tenants. The other half, they leave. They leave. I mean, if they can't buy a home, if they can't buy me, if they can't get a loan to buy me out, they can't get a loan to buy anything else out. Right? Everybody see that? So they're going to be renters. That's what's happened to me. And I haven't done this 100 times, but I've done it maybe 10 or 15 times, and I haven't had a lot of trouble. But about half of them can't take me out after 5 years.
That's my big curiosity that
Yeah.
some are fine.
Just remember what has happened to many shareholders with stock. No matter the damage that somebody does to a home, can a home go to zero value? No. There are people who bought a lot of shares of stock, have seen it go to zero value. And in essence, the owners of that company trashed your house.
Yeah,
But they trashed it to the point of zero.
burn it down.
Right? Yeah, they burned it down and took the land in a dark hole with them.
You didn't have any insurance.
But I mean, you understand, yeah, there's insurance on the property, you have insurance. I mean, this is not, don't be worried about this. If you have problems with tenants, if you're an investor, you need a better screening policy. That's the bottom line. You need to get better at tenants. How many of you have ever rented the place? I'm dead serious about this question. Well, how many of you trashed the place you rented? The majority of people do not trash the, even my college students, the majority do not trash the place. I mean, there's a fair number that need painting when they move out, but I don't consider that trash. Instead of every 4 to 5 years painting, college students, every 2 years painting. But I don't care. Again, they're paying me what percentage of rent? Way above market, so okay, have fun, guys. Beer stains on the wall, that kind of thing. Okay. All right, let's get back over here. You can lend it, owner financing, private lending, or if you own, that would be a business or real estate. Now, what else can you do with money where you have an active role in the investing besides owning a business or owning real estate? Would you rather be in charge of your investments or not in charge of your investments? I like being in charge. Is it more responsibility, more pain to be in charge? But it's a fundamental decision, isn't it? Would you prefer to be in charge or not to be in charge? If you want to be in charge, you got to be in charge, right? So a lot of people take the easy way out and say, I don't want to be in charge. I'll buy me some stocks.
You can pay somebody else to be in charge.
Yeah, but in the big sense, you're in charge, even then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How consumers see their budget. Now again, this is a discussion, and by the way, this is a free download for any of you guys to use to show to potential investors. These people that you've sold homes to over the years, who may or may not be, excuse me, who may or may not be considering investing in real estate, you can put on a seminar for them. This is the seminar. So most people look at discretionary spending and required spending and confuse it. Well, we have to have, $500 a month to dine out. Right? I mean, we eat out all the time. It's a lot of money. But that is discretionary spending. That's not required spending. And they end up with very little money to invest. Okay? A serious investor looks at investment spending as what? As what? Required spending. Required spending. It is mandatory. Just like the rent and the utilities, the investment fund has to be spent. All of you and all of your clients need to get that in their heads. You need to invest in something. Investors always have money to invest. They always plan on investing. They have a sinking fund for investing. They always have money. Okay, a sample personal budget. This is a free download. Separately, you can get from millionairesystems.com. Everything you're looking at is a download off of millionairesystems.com. realestateagents.com. But these charts, if you don't have one of these, a one-page personal budget, you should do one. And it just shows you, look at the bottom line, it'll show you your discretionary expenses, and on the bottom, net spendable, less required expenses, total surplus or deficit. Most people run a very tight ship. In other words, they have very little excess cash at the end of the month. Is that true? Real estate agents follow the same. Why is that?
They live above their means.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's even harder for a lot of real estate agents to get investment income because they spend all the money they make. They confuse the salary from their business and profit of their business. If you're an agent and you have a month that's typical for you, and then you have a big month the next month, that extra money is not your pay. That extra money is profit the business made. And you could be rewarded with that as the owner of the business, and that's called a dividend payment, right? Or the company could keep it to grow the business. But if you take that money like it's your salary and go out and buy a BMW or buy a bigger home, and then the next 4 or 5 months you're back to your normal salary, it could be very tight, right? Because you don't understand, you took company profit and treated it like your salary and lived on it. And that is the wrong thing to do with that money. That is the wrong thing to do. I have never, in my entire real estate career, been paid anything but a salary every 2 weeks. Now, it's grown over the years, but I get the same paycheck almost all year long, every 2 weeks. It never varies. When our business makes money, we make a decision about paying a dividend or growing the business. The last few years, it's been maintaining the business. Ain't no dividend payments recently. This year we got a dividend payment. But you understand the point. But I'm conscious of this idea at a high level here. If you don't consider investing as mandatory, then you probably have no cushion at all. Because that's really what that is, right? If you're not investing, but you're doing that, then that becomes a cushion. Right? Everybody see that? When I know I've got that money, I'm going to put it in a sinking fund for investing. Well, if times get tough, I'm still getting that, and I can use it to offset other hits that I'm taking. Okay, so personal budget, balance sheet. Bottom line is you got to figure out what your assets are, figure out what your liabilities are, and come up with your net worth. And this is the thing you must grow every single year. Because I'm heavily invested in real estate, my wife and I, what's happened to our net worth over the last 4 years?
It's gone up.
I own the same stuff. Right? I've lost a single property, not one. I sold 2, but I haven't lost anything. And yet my net worth has gone, woo, because I still owe what I owe, right? But the value has gone down. Mr. CPA, you get this big time, don't you? Yeah, Jose knows what I'm talking about. But I mean, that's the reality. Nothing I do has changed, guys. I'm still making the rent, I'm still making payments, and everything's fine, and yet my net worth has fallen because the value has fallen, right? And I'm honest about it. I don't inflate it. I'm not keeping those properties that they were 5 years ago. I reevaluate them every year because my CPA insists that I reevaluate them every year. And that's what we calculate. However, I am very focused on turning that around, and this acquisition we've done recently is turning that around this year, I hope. We'll see. But I'm going to do that. But you all have to do that, is grow your net worth. How much net worth do you want?
More.
Think about if all your net worth, more. Think about if all your net worth was in real estate. And think about the ERV formula and everything we've talked about. How much would you want? You would want enough to cash flow, enough unearned income to equal or exceed your earned income. Right? That's what you want. That's what you want. All right. So, let's back up and just follow that train of thought. So if I had $1 million in real estate, if I accumulated $1 million in real estate, and over 15 or 20 years paid it all off, what would be my cash flow annually? Using the formula 0.8. $100,000. $100,000. Everybody hear that? Only $1 million in real estate will generate $100,000 a year in cash flow when paid off. And And it's important to understand that. We are talking about long-term investing, not short-term. But if you don't have another strategy where when you retire, you're going to get 6 figures plus annually coming in, you better look at this strategy. Because it's an extremely powerful strategy. And it is not possible for these investments to go to zero. It is not possible. If all my real estate went to zero, we have a much bigger problem in the United States than my real estate investing. Y'all get that? Okay. All right, the financial model.
Gene,
Yeah.
people just starting, how many should you buy a year? Is there a formula, or now that interest rates are low and prices are low, to get as many as you can now, or soon?
I would tell you, accumulate right now. There's an old saying in real estate I learned when I got into real estate, and I didn't pay much attention to it, but it's really right. You make your money when you buy, not when you sell. In 03, 04, 05, and 06, people were buying, focusing on how much they'd make when they sold. And they weren't focusing on buying. Remember, if everybody had done the 0.8 to 1 formula when they bought, nobody would have bought. I quit buying because I knew I made my money when I bought, not when I sold. So now's the golden age to invest in real estate. It really is. In other words, I'd push as hard as you can to invest as much as you can right now. And it's not easy. Getting qualified for an investment loan is not going to be easy for most people. It's just not. It's not going to be easy. But until you get started, nothing's going to happen. And if the worst case happens, you can't get qualified now, then get the bank you've chosen to go to tell you when you can get an investment loan and what you need to do to get an investment loan, and then make that happen. It takes you 1 year, 2 years to remember one of the rules we talked about. There will always be good deals. So just, if you can't pile them on in the next year or two, don't worry about it. Real estate is not going to do this, right? It will be slow and steady. You will always be able to find things that hit that 0.8 to 1% rule. As long as you can do that, you can find investment properties. As long as you can do that. Even when things were going up, we still got 0.8 to 1, even when prices exceeded. How do you think we did that?
Because the rents didn't go down the same way values did.
Well, that's right. That's why it's the golden age right now. But I'm saying when prices were going up, I was looking at the price of property and I couldn't make the 0.8.1, but then I found a way to do it. I built them. I built rental property. If you're the builder, if I decide to build some townhomes or a single family house, there's about a 15 to 20% equity gap, if you do it right, that you can pick up right off the bat. I mean, how much do you think the builders make? Well, if you're the builder, guys, that gap is your gap. You take the risk, but if I'm building them to rent, the risk is really low. The stuff that I did that for, I put the sign up for rent the day we started construction. Had them all rented before we finished. All of them. All of them. Are you following this? No, I'm saying
How
you're...
many units are you talking about?
We did a project that had 100 units in a partnership with a builder, and we sold all but 20, and he kept half and I kept half.
You rented it or sold